Did you play SimCity when you were young, or maybe last weekend when your wife was out on a business trip? When you played, did you feel like you were the mayor, you had the keys to the city? If you had the opportunity, would you make 40-story condos and a beautiful marina? Would you hike up the tax dollars so that you could have the best education, healthcare, and transportation scores you could possibly get? Once you got the perfect city, did your brother log on and destroy the whole thing with aliens? Mine did, and trust me, he regretted it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Grotz, and SimCity is one of the reasons why I decided to pursue a career in architecture. What drew me to the field was not the idea of building monumentous buildings that would last or stand the test of time. It was the idea that urban development and neighborhoods could actually be really important and could, with thoughtful design, could bring people closer together. Suburbia is the antithesis of thoughtful design. Think about it. In suburbia, everyone is efficient. They're all private. Every kid has their own bedroom, sometimes their own bathroom. The adults hang out in the library or study and do whatever adults do. The dog has its own backyard. It can do whatever it wants without any supervision. Even the cars, for whatever reason, have their own room in the house. So what do we do to bring people closer together with this problem that we've built around us? I believe that the solution starts with removing highways from the equation. We don't need my brother's help to have the aliens come down and destroy the highways. We really can't afford to keep them constructed. They're falling apart beneath our feet faster than we can fix them. So what do we do? Well, Seattle had the same issue. Their viaduct system that brought people into the city and out of the city in the most efficient way possible, well, it was failing, as many of our highways are. So their solution, in a very earthquake-prone area of the country, was to build a tunnel instead of a bridge to provide access to the businesses downtown. Before the tunnel could open up, the bridge, well, it didn't work out so well, and it was closed before the tunnel was open. So what did the community do for the few months where they had this dilemma? They did what anybody would do. This was before Zoom, believe it or not. It was not that long ago. But this was a time when people would actually carpool together. They would take the bus. Sometimes they would even reroute their schedule so that they could commute either before or after the typical rush hour. When's the last time you rode the bus? For a lot of these people, it had been many, many years. And when the tunnel opened up, you may think that, oh my gosh, their culture was changed. They did something very different. They went to the old ways instead of going back to their car. Well, you'd be wrong. They returned right back to their old ways, and the car was just as prevalent as it was before. So why don't we ride the bus? For most of us, it may have been elementary school the last time we went on a bus ride. I think the reason why a lot of us don't ride the bus is that it's just too inconvenient. We have too much to do and not enough time to do it. So when my brothers and I were waiting patiently for the bus, we threw snowballs at each other, we played sports, we even threw rocks at each other. Sorry, Mom. And it was a great way to pass the time. What if our bus stops today did, well, just the same? What if they had a ping pong table built into the bus stop so that you could occupy your time with a stranger and wait patiently? Better yet, what if these bus stops had resources like food or library books or even internet access so that the neighborhoods that they were located in now had a small oasis in the midst of a food desert? How could these bus stops transform how we live and interact with our neighbors in the city? If these bus stops were to become so attractive and bring so much new attention to these communities that they became too unaffordable or too unattainable for most of the neighbors, what would we do then? Singapore, a few decades ago, before they had the growth that they do now, came up with a very smart solution. They reinvented how their affordable housing could work in the city by promoting three main things. The first was homeownership. In these affordable homes, these apartment complexes, the owners lived and owned their homes so they could build equity over time. Second, Singapore, the government supported these buildings with incredible maintenance. similar to what you would expect at an American country club. And third, the most important thing that was done, which may or may not surprise you, is that they prohibited segregation in the buildings. Different economic levels, different ethnicities were forced to live together, and they were not able to segregate themselves into their own buildings, blocks, and neighborhoods, so that over time, the social equity was shared amongst all of the residents. One of the best examples of how social equity can actually help a city be more resilient in times of trouble is the Chicago heat wave of 1996. Tragically, over 700 people passed away from that tragic event. And what happened? Well, a lot of the more affluent people were able to leave the city. They had the means to do something for the time that the heat wave was in effect. But those that were confined to their neighborhoods, they were stuck. They had nowhere to go. So what did they do? Well, Auburn Gresham, it's a very poor neighborhood in Chicago, actually had one of the best successes in holding out through the heat wave. Why was this? Well, basically they had something that a lot of the other neighborhoods didn't. They had that social equity in place before the disaster ever struck. They knew who in the neighborhood needed to be checked on, who had extra ice cream, who maybe had power and was able to turn on the AC for those that really, really needed it, and who had toilet paper, which back then that was not nearly the commodity it is now. So the Chicago heat wave shows us that when people are bond together before this event, that they can actually be more resilient through the event by leaning on each other for the different gifts and resources we each have. Moving on, if you're still not convinced that living in an urban, socially connected society is healthy for you, Susan Pinker's book, Village People, actually claims that by being social and friendly to your neighbors, that actually increases your healthness. It decreases your risk of heart attacks and disease. So the next time your kids are sitting at the dinner table and say they don't want to eat their vegetables, you can counteroffer them by saying, well, do you want to share a room with your little brother? If it was me, I would actually choose the vegetables. I don't think I would want to be with my brother, at least not at this point in my life. So what does that mean? It means that we need to desire to want to be around each other. We need to need that and want that and demand it from those that are building our neighborhoods and communities. Overall, we really have to reinvent the way that we live with each other. Think about the life that you live. Architects, urban planners, and developers, they know how to design these communities, but they need you to want them. So think about the life that you live. Think about the way you want to live. Do you want to mow your lawn every Saturday? Do you want to sit in traffic 5-10 hours a week? Think less about how to achieve a life of luxury in suburbia, and think more about how a life being in a tight-knit community could be healthy, could bring you happiness, and could change your life for the better while you're on this earth. I thank you.